All right, good day, everyone. Welcome to our YouTube lessons on biology, and I'm looking at a very simple topic today on biology, and it's quite advanced for A-level students actually. Now, I'm looking at interrelationship between living organisms. Yes. Now, in an ecosystem where living organisms have to communicate of different communities, different population of organisms, there can be three types of relationship. Three main types of relationship. Every other relationship you see boils down to these three. And this relationship could be predation, symbiosis, and competition. Predation, symbiosis, and competition. Now, I'll just quickly do a brief intro, then we'll dive into each of them one by one. Now, for predation, it's when, obviously, from the name, we have a predator, somebody trying to take advantage of another person, and the person they are taking advantage of is known as the prey, or the organism they are taking advantage of is known as the prey. So, predation is the process in which an organism feed on another organism for food completely, kills it and feed in them for food. Now, predation can be of three types. Can be carnivory, can be herbivory, and it can be parasitoidism. I want to look at this. Yes, herbivory. I know it might be shocking to you. So are herbivores predators? Yes, herbivores are predators on leaves. The leaves are organisms also. They feed on the leaves. So they kill them and take them for food. So they are herbivores. Also, there's what we call parasitoids. So we'll look at that one. The symbiosis. Now, under symbiosis, there's a very big concept here under symbiosis that many will not like to put under symbiosis. It's called mutualism. So, but I like to put, so for some tests, they don't put mutualism in symbiosis, but they separate them. But I like to put them together. Now, predation um, can actually be mutualism, can be commensalism. Pardon me, that's for predation. I mean, symbiosis now can be mutualism. Let me just put it. Can be mutualism. It can be commensalism. Yeah, it can be commensalism. It can be parasitism. So these are the main types of symbiosis. So symbiosis actually came from two Latin words, sym and biosis. Sym, which means together, bios, which means living. So when two organisms live together and they live together for, especially when they live together for food or to carry out their normal body activities, that is referred to as symbiosis. And symbiosis can basically be of these three: mutualism, commensalism, parasitism. Now the last one is competition. This is the more complex one. So competition can be of different types. Yes, based on the species or based on organism involved, we can say it can be intraspecific and interspecific. We can also classify competition based on mechanism. We can also classify competition based on resource type. So I'm going to say a lot of competition. Yeah, a lot of competition. A lot. So when some organisms compete for a given material, we're talking about. So we're going to dive into this video proper now with predation. With predation. Now, all right, predation. All right. For predation, there are three main types of predation: carnivory, herbivory, and parasitoidism. Um, Carnivory is a type of predation in which the host, um, it's usually, I said the host, the predator feeds on flesh. So the predator is a carnivore. And they have a special type of teeth, the carnivorous teeth for tearing flesh, and that's for carnivory. So the host is a carnivore. Why am I saying the host? The predator. So predation is a type of association that involves what's called a predator and a prey. So the predator for carnivory is a carnivore, and it feeds on a prey, which is usually flesh, other animals. So example of carnivory is an association between a relationship between tiger and the giraffe, relationship between the lion and the zebra. So those are examples of carnivory. And the adaptation of these carnivores is that they have sharp claws, sharp teeth for biting the prey, and their claws also for fighting. Okay, and the adaptation of the prey in carnivory is that the prey usually have long legs to escape the host, and the prey can camouflage. The prey can camouflage. They can camouflage. Also, the predators can also camouflage. So and the predator can also mimic. It can also mimic other plants to look like the prey thinks they are males, so then they attack the prey. So that example of carnivores. Also, snakes are carnivores. We should know that snakes are carnivores. They feed on birds, they feed on insects, feed on lizards. Okay, for herbivory is a special type of predation in which now the predator is an herbivore. The predator is a plant that does not feed on flesh. They feed on plants. Now remember, plants are living things. So plants are living things. So when you feed on plants, that type of relationship, or when an animal feed on plant, that type of relationship is said to be herbivory. So that's herbivory. That's herbivory. So the last type is parasitoidism. So parasitoidism is a very simple concept in which the the predator in this case um, puts its larva or place its larva on a prey. Now, this prey is now referred to as a host. So that's why I'll be saying host also. So this prey is now referred to as a host. So the predator places its larva on the host or the prey such that it will not kill the host because it's going to eventually kill the host. The the larva of the predator now, or the larva of the parasitoid is going to kill the host, but it will not kill the host until it completes its life cycle. So let me simply define it in a very common language. So parasitoidism is a type of association between insect larva and prey, or insect larva and host, in which the insect larva does not kill the prey until the development or the completion of its life cycle. So, for instance, I have a special type of wasp, the ichneumon wasp. The ichneumon wasp and the caterpillar. Okay, the tachinid fly and the caterpillar or beetles can also do this. Now, for these two, now this wasp is going to place its larva. The wasp sprays its larva on the caterpillar. The caterpillar is an insect also. It plays larva on the caterpillar. Now the larva of this wasp feeds on this caterpillar continuously, feeds and feeds on this caterpillar continuously until the larva of this wasp completes its life cycle. This type of so when this larva completes its life cycle on the caterpillar, when the larva completes its life cycle on the caterpillar, it will finally successfully, or it will finally kill the caterpillar. This type of association or this type of relationship is termed parasitoidism. Is a special type of predation. And please take note, the larva is not the parasitoid. The organism that produces the larva that will kill the host is known as the parasitoid. The example of parasitoid are this ichneumon wasp, the tachinids, flies, and the others, dipteras and so on and so forth. So that's for predation. So the next one we're going to look at is competition. So the third type of relationship we're looking at is competition. So competition. Now, for competition is actually the relationship between two or more organisms in an ecosystem in which they are competing for a particular food, or they are competing for a particular habitat, a particular territory. So competition is can be classified can be classified based on three types, or based on three ways as I expressed in this video. So the first one is based on species. Now, based on species, competition can be intraspecific. So intraspecific competition and interspecific competition. So what is interspecific and intraspecific? So for intraspecific, that is the competition between two organisms, intraspecific, between two organisms of the same species, intraspecific, while interspecific is the competition between two organisms of different species. I can as well give you example. For instance, goats and sheep in an habitat may be competing for a particular type of food. That's in for a particular type of grass or competing for the grass in the environment. That's inter-specific. While organisms of the same species competing for food, light, like a population of humans competing for food, light, and where to get money, as the society put it, is said to be intra-specific. So intra-specific. Now, the second way to classify competition is based on resource type, based on the resources available. So based on the resources available, competition can be classified into two. Now, there's one called preemptive or preemptive competition or preemptive competition, and allelopathy. Now, the actual true competition here is this preemptive competition. This allelopathy is not really a true form of competition, but let me just quickly explain, though it's competition. So, based on resource type, competition can be this. Now, I'll quickly explain. Now, for based on resource type, preemptive competition, as we see it here, is a type of competition in which the organisms are competing based on the first to get to a territory habitat, based on the first to get to a territory habitat or the first to get to a food. So competition between two organisms based on first to get to food, first to get to a territory, or first to get to an habitat is known as preemptive competition. For instance, we have the lions and the hyenas. The lions and the hyenas now competing for a particular prey by the first to get to key site. For instance, the lions and hyenas, as you've seen in the documentary, they usually stay in the same biome or the same ecosystem, as I'll put it. So they just stay in the same ecosystem. So based on the first to get to the organism, obviously will be the first to kill the, or based on the first to get to the prey will be the first to kill the prey. So usually the lions are in, unfortunately, they have similar preys. So similar prey. So first to get to the key site, maybe the first to, or maybe the lucky person, maybe the lucky individual to get the prey or to get the food. So that is preemptive competition. Now, what is allelopathy? Now, allelopathy is a special type of competition in which one organism inhibits the affair of the other. Yes, an organism inhibits the affair of the other. Yeah, as I said, sorry for the mix-up. Allelopathy sorry for the break in communication. So let's continue. Let's keep that bit. I said allelopathy is the process whereby a particular organism inhibits the growth of nearby organisms around it. This organism or this allelopathic plant or organism usually produces chemicals. So let me just break it down. So produces chemicals to inhibit the growth and development of other surrounding organisms nearby. So allelopathy can be seen in special organisms. A typical example is the black walnut. The black walnut. Black walnut. Black walnut. So the black walnut can actually possess allelopathy. The black walnut. So the black walnut plant can possess allelopathy. So this plant, actually, its botanical name is Jugan nigral. So Jugan nigral. So Jugan nigral, or the black walnut or the black walnut tree, actually produces chemicals known as juglons, produces chemicals known as juglons that can prevent the growth of nearby organisms such as tomatoes, potatoes, and grasses around it. They can't grow because of these chemicals, because of these juglons. So that's why if you check juglons, the botanical name of the plant is called jugan, juglan, juglan nigra, juglan nigra. So let me just write this black walnut. It is black walnut. So black walnut. So the Jugan nigra, black walnut tree. So I said the botanical name is Juglan nigra. So it produces chemicals such as juglons that inhibits the growth of other neighboring plants. So that is an example of allelopathy. So based on resource type, I can classify competition like this. And why is allelopathy placed in competition based on resource type? This is the reason. Because the environment where this walnut will grow, it wants to take all the resources to itself and does not want any other plants to interfere with the resources around the environment, such as light, food, and so on and so forth. So that's why it produces these chemicals to inhibit their growth. So that's an example of competition based on resource type. So the last form of competition is based on the mechanism in which this competition works. So the main type of competition is usually preemptive competition. This is the main type, actual type of competition. Now, preemptive competition and other forms of competition have worked on three mechanisms. Three mechanisms. Either the mechanism is interference, exploitive, or apparent. So, what is interference competition? As the word will imply, to interfere in our activity. So for instance, now interference competition is also known as contest competition. You should know that it's also called contest competition. It's called contest competition. Now, why is it called contest competition? It is called contest competition because these two organisms involved in this competition are contesting or actively they are contesting or actively participating in the competition. That means they are directly struggling for this food and space and other materials they can compete for. So they are directly struggling. So it is called active competition or contest competition. So a typical example of this competition will in I said we include the ant novemesor, and the red harvester ant. So the ant novemesor and the red harvester ant. The ant novemesor and the red harvester ant. The red harvester ant. Now the red harvester ant. So these two type of ants they're actively competing for food as they stay in the same habitat. Now, the way they compete by interfering in each other activity. How? This ant novomesor or ant novomesor can produce organisms that are like the red harvester ant just to reduce the amount of red harvester ants in the environment. So they interfere in their reproduction rate, they interfere in their life cycle, they kill their young ones, and so on and so forth. So just to compete for food. So that's an example of interference competition. Remember, interference competition is called contest competition. So another form of competition is the exploitative. Some tests we call it exploitation competition. So exploitative competition. So for exploitative competition, these organisms are passively involved in competing for food. They are passively involved in competing for this food. Now, this exploitative competition is also known as consumptive competition. Consumptive. Now, let me quickly explain what this exploitative competition is. Now, for instance, there are two sets of plants. Animals that are active during the day are said to be not diurnal animals. Diurnal animals. While animals that are active at night are said to be nocturnal animals, as they have more rods than cones. Okay. Now, these animals involved in exploitative competition, they might compete without even knowing. For instance, now the nocturnal animals come at night may finish the food that will be needed also by the diurnal animals, so animals that live during the day. So these two organisms might have the same food or might feed on the same food. So the nocturnal animals finish the resources during at night, Why do the other animals have nothing to feed on during the day? So those two organisms are competing, but are competing passively. They are not aware that they are in competition. So they are not aware. So that such type of competition is called exploitation competition or exploitative competition. Remember, it is called consumptive competition, finishing the resource type of the other before without the other knowing. So that is another mechanism in which competition can work. Now the last mechanism we can use for competition is the apparent competition. Apparent. Now this apparent competition, I call it um, one predator, two prey model. One predator, two prey model. One predator, two prey model. Now, why the word one predator, two prey model? Now, for instance, we have a particular predator having two types of prey as food. So an increase in the population of one of the prey means there will be a decrease in the population of the other prey. So those two prey are competing without them also knowing. So many can classify apparent competition under exploitative competition. So, but there's a little difference in mechanism. There's a little difference in mechanism. So these two organisms can live at the same time, just that they have a common predator. So I would not like to say common enemy. That will be common predator. Let me just set the specific example. Now, for instance, the lion has two common type of prey. One is the zebra, one is the giraffe. Now let's say zebra and the giraffe stay in the same savanna. So when the lion feeds on so many zebra, it means that the giraffe population is preserved or more robust now um, than the zebra population. Why? Because the lion is having another prey to feed on, forgetting about the giraffe. So that's an example of a one what's it called now, one predator, two prey model. So an example is foxes. Foxes usually have two type of prey, the quail and the rabbit. So an increase in the population of rabbits means that there's a decrease in population of quail. So or that's what we call an apparent competition. That's what we call apparent competition. So that's for apparent competition. So this is competition in summary. So those of us that will need it for exam, especially my examples, I said that I called it a particular type of competition. Now for this apparent, I said don't forget that foxes as the predator, and I have rabbit, and quail, yeah, rabbit and quail as my prey. So one predator, two prey model. So that's apparent competition. So we'll move to the next type of the next type of interrelationship between living organisms in an ecosystem, and the next type we're looking at will be on symbiosis. Symbiosis. Now, symbiosis. So let's quickly look at symbiosis in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Symbiosis. All right. Now, symbiosis. Symbiosis is actually a type of association between or type of relationship living organisms between living organisms in an ecosystem um, in which they live together, maybe for food or for shelter or for defense. So symbiosis is together living. So when two or more organisms live together, for any of these things I mentioned earlier, we'll call it symbiosis. Okay. Um, now the type of symbiosis we have is commensalism, mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. Yeah, new one, right? So we'll talk about it. So for symbiosis, I'll quickly classify symbiosis into two before looking at these ones. So symbiosis can be conjunctive, so-called conjunctive symbiosis, and so-called disjunctive, disjunctive symbiosis. So I can have conjunctive symbiosis and disjunctive symbiosis. Now, conjunctive symbiosis is a type of symbiosis in which the organism in the relationship come together to form a single body. And it should be noted that for conjunctive symbiosis, they cannot be separated without causing harm on both organisms. For instance, there's what we call the lichen or the lichen. The lichen is an association between fungi and algae. Now, it's not just a fungi, it's a fungi that have lacked the ability to produce food and an algae that has lacked the ability to extract water and mineral salt. So, separating the algae and the fungi from the lichen association might cause harm. So, such symbiosis is known as conjunctive symbiosis, in which if you separate the two organisms or the two, three or more organisms, as the case may be, from the symbiotic relationship, there will be harm caused. So, conjunctive symbiosis can be of two. There's what we call endosymbiosis, 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 and ectosymbiosis, endosymbiosis, and ectosymbiosis. Now, we will quickly look at ecto and endosymbiosis. Now, what is ectosymbiosis and what is endosymbiosis? Now, as the case may be, as the word is being pronounced, ecto and endo, ecto and endo, ecto and endo. So for endo, this endosymbiosis, the organisms live, this organism in this symbiotic relationship, they live in each other. For instance, what I mean is that one of the organisms in the relationship will live inside another of the organism. So the other one living inside the organism might be the parasite. Might be the parasite. So let's say, for instance, parasite living in the human body. So they live together. So that's an endosymbiosis. Now, another example of endosymbiosis is cellulose digestive bacteria such as trichonympha and termites. So you see the cellulose digesting protozoan, such as trichonympha, not bacteria, pardon me, cellulose digesting protozoa, such as trichonympha, they are found in the um, digestive gut, that means inside the organism, the digestive gut of the termite. So that's an example of endosymbiosis. Now, what about ectosymbiosis? This is when these organisms are outside these organisms does not live inside the inside one another. So they are usually in the outermost part. So when two organisms in a relationship and one of them or do not live inside the other, is said to be ectosymbiosis. Example is mycorrhiza. So you have mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza is an association between the fungi and the root of leguminous plant. So the fungi will just stay on the root, so on the surface. So they don't, this fungi is not inside the plant. So an example is lichen or lichen, you want to call lichen. So those are examples of ectosymbiosis. I said ectosymbiosis. Yeah, I have lichen. I had mycorrhiza, mycorrhiza. So mycorrhiza, lichen are examples of ectosymbiosis. Now, what's the disjunctive symbiosis? Now, disjunctive symbiosis is a type of symbiosis in which the organism in the relationship do not form a single body. That means they can be easily distinguished. So these organisms forming this relationship can be easily distinguished. Example is cleaner fish or larger fish. Let me give an example of cleaner fish and larger fish. Cleaner fish and larger fish example can be remora fish and the shark. Remora fish and the shark. We know that remora fish help to remove parasites such as we have parasite and dead cells on the body of the shark, while the shark on the other hand helps to protect the remora and transport the remora. So those type of, I can physically remove the remora from the shark without causing an harm. The remora and the shark does not form a single body. That's an example of what we call disjunctive symbiosis. That's an example of what we call disjunctive symbiosis. So having classified symbiosis into conjunctive and disjunctive based on the type of relationship we have. Now, I cannot say there are four main types of, so these are the classes of symbiosis, conjunctive and disjunctive. Now, if you don't understand what it means, you can go back to the video and you get it out as self-explanatory. So now, the types of um, commensalism I have here it's usually kind of it is broad, especially the second one we call mutualism. So now for commensalism, um, we have it's a type of association. Many say it is a plus neutral association. So plus neutral association. So if we are looking at it from an association view, now and it should be noted that allelopathy, I remember we talked about allelopathy, should be plus negative relationship. So when one person is gaining, the other person is losing, plus negative. When one person is gaining, the other person is unarmed, plus neutral. That is commensalism. When both of them are gaining, it's said to be plus plus. So this is plus, positive, positive. Example, neutralism. So commensalism is a type of association or a type of symbiosis in which one of the organism is gaining and the other of the organism is neither gaining nor losing. We say it is remaining neutral. Now, commensalism can be divided into four: theorecy, inquilinism, metabiosis, and microbiota. So, foresty is a special type of commensalism that has to do with um, an organism depending on another organism solely for transport. So, an organism is depending on another organism solely for transport. Solely for transport. So, when one organism depends on another organism solely for transport, is a type of commensalism known as foresty. Foresty. And a typical example is mythos on insects, on riding insects. Mythos on riding insects. Mythos on riding insects or flies. Yes, mythos or riding insects or flies. So we have mythos on riding insects. Another example is myths. There's an insect called myths on riding insects such as beetles. So when you temporarily attach to an organism by not causing harm on their organism just for just for transport, just for transport, that's fluorescence. Now inequilibrium. Now let's look at this word very well. Inquilinism. It is pronounced inquilinism. Now, equilinism is a type of symbiosis. It's a type of symbiosis under commensalism, or we say rather, the type of commensalism in which one organism lives in the habitat of another organism without affecting it. So, one organism lives in the habitat of an organism without affecting it. So now I'll give you a this one will interest you very, very well. As the same in birds. So you stay in an organism or you make another organism your habitat without affecting it. Example, bird, as far as I say bird building their nest on tall trees. Birds building their nest on tall trees. They stay on the tall trees mainly for shelter. So when you stay in an organism mainly for shelter, that should be inquilinism, solely for shelter, and the organism is not gaining anything for you. That's inquilinism. Okay. The other type of um, commensalism, which is metabiosis. Metabiosis is a type of commensalism in which one organism indirectly benefits from the other. So, a type of commensalism in which an organism will indirectly benefit from the other is known as metabiosis. Example, I really like to talk about this example. There's what we call aquatic snail shell and sea and the hermit crab. So the hermit crab and the aquatic snail shell. the hermit crab and the aquatic snail shell, or the hermit crab and the sea animal. So the hermit crab uses the um, unuseful the unuseful snail shell for protection. So the hermit crab um, looks for a shell in the aquatic habitat and find the snail shell of a lost snail shell from an aquatic snail and uses it for protection. So the hermit crab is depending on the aquatic snail shell, but he does not know he's using the shell of the aquatic snail. So he's benefiting indirectly without knowing from the aquatic snail. That type of commensalism is known as metabiosis. Okay, another example of commensalism is microbiota. So these microbiota is, are known as commensalistic bacteria. So microbiota or commensalistic bacteria. So these guys, they are bacteria that stay in a particular host without causing harm, and they gain food. Yes, these bacteria are especially bacteria in the skin of man and bacteria in the small intestine. Bacteria in the small intestine, bacteria in the skin, the some bacteria in the small intestine, they depend solely on the, what's it called, on the food taken in by man, or on the undigested food by man. It's only depend on those food for their own meal or for their own food. So and they gain from us without causing host, without causing harm. Those many bacteria are harmful. So some bacteria can be commensalistic. So you know what I mean. So that's that for commensalism. That's that for commensalism. So commensalism is done. We have to look at we have to look at um, parasitism. Let me just quickly explain parasitism and commensalism, because I'll come my mutualism is broad. So parasitism is a positive um, a negative association. One person is gaining, the other person is losing, and the person losing usually the host, the person gaining usually the parasite. Now for amensalism, it is a negative neutral. Now before I talk about amensalism, also know that parasitoidism, a type of predation, is also positive neutral negative, positive negative. Somebody's gaining, somebody's losing. So though but parasitoidism is a type of predation, parasitism is a type of symbiosis. So for amensalism, one of the organisms is losing and the other organism is remain unarmed. So it's said to be neutral. So an example of amensalism can be seen, example of mentalism can be seen between bacteria and the fungi, the imperfect fungi known as penicillin. Yes, penicillin destroys the bacteria without even knowing, and it is unarmed. It is unarmed. So that's why penicillin is better as an antibiotic. So penicillin and bacteria is an example of amensalism. So we can think what commensalism is positive neutral, amensalism is negative neutral. They are kind of constructing. So that leads us to solely mutualism. So let's look at mutualism. All right. Mutualism. Now, mutualism is a very big, broad concept. Not forgetting to put my plus plus is a type of symbiosis between two organisms in which both organisms are solely receiving. They are enjoying the symbiosis. They are enjoying the togetherness. Both organisms are at the receiving end. So it's a positive association. Now, mutualism, as sweet as it is kind of broad. If you can see my board, it's kind of broad, and can be classified based on the following. Now, first one, I can say based on interaction or based on the number of organisms in the mutualism, based on the number of organisms in the interaction. Second one, based on what they are, based on dependency, based on how dependent they are to this association. And thirdly, tell you to classify mutualism based on the function of the mutualistic association. So why are they mutualistic? For what reason? What's the function of the association? So now, I'll look at the first one based on interaction or based on the number of organisms in interaction. Now, when two organisms are mutualistic. Two organisms are mutualistic, like leaching, algae, and fungi. Two organisms. Um, such association is or such mutualism is said to be pairwise. So we call it pairwise, or is said to be specific. So specific mutualism is when the organism in the mutualistic association are just um two types. Okay, we can have a special type of plant called the yucca plant, and the yucca moth. Yucca plant and the yucca moth. So that is an example of specific mutualism. Specific mutualism. Now, the second type of mutualism is diffuse mutualism. So the organism in diffuse mutualism is a type of mutualism in which the organisms involved are not in pair, they are not two, they are more, a lot. So, for instance, I'll give an instance now. Remember the association between flowering plants. In case you don't remember, let me just remind you: the association between flowering plants and insects is known as mutualism. So, because the flowering plants provide nectars and honey, pollen for the insect, while the insect help to pollinate the flower, so it's mutualism. So when more than one insect are in a mutualistic association with a particular plant, let's say this insect can be bee, butterflies, and bee, butterflies, really the bee butterflies basically, so beetles, okay, not really beetles, so bee butterflies. When they're in a mutualistic association with a particular plant, let's say an hibiscus plant or something, when they are in when they are in a mutualistic relationship with a particular plant, that type of mutualism is said to be diffuse, because the amount of organisms involved is more than two. So another example of diffuse mutualism is a type of aquatic plant called coral reef. Yes, coral reef, e.g., coral reef, a type of aquatic plant called coral reef. Coral reef and coral reef and an aquatic plant and fishes. So the coral reef is a good site for many fishes. Now, many fishes stay on the coral reef. A lot of fish stay on the coral reef for food and and it's a site so where many fishes stay. So predator fish also go there to get fish, and also the fishes help to maintain the health of the coral reef. The fish help to maintain the health of the coral reef by removing its waste products and so on and so forth. And the coral reef serve as a shelter for many of these fishes. So it's a good site. And the coral reef are usually found in the sea floor, on the sea floor of the aquatic habitat. So that's an example of diffuse mutualism. So more than one fishes go to the coral reef, the lionfish, even the octopus. I saw a documentary one time on YouTube where an octopus went to the coral reef, a good site for food, and mimicked the lionfish to scare other predators away. So that's an example of diffuse mutualism, coral reef and fishes. So that's how, based on the number of interactions. So when two organisms are involved in mutualism pairwise, when more than two organisms are involved in mutualistic relationship, it's said to be diffuse a lot. So now, based on dependency, see, based on the dependency, some mutualistic association, some organisms cannot live without being mutualistic. Some organisms cannot stay on their own again. Well, we said they are said to be conjunctive symbionts. Conjunctive symbionts. So they have a conjunctive symbiosis. So they cannot live outside being have it outside the relationship. So such organisms that cannot live outside their mutualistic association are said to be obligate. Yes, obligate. They totally depend. They totally depend on the mutualism. Example, leaching. Typical- Leaching, leaching cellulose digesting bacteria. So I say cellulose digesting bacteria and the stomach of ruminant animals, um, cellulose digesting protozoa, and the gut of termites. Cellulose digesting protozoa and the gut of termites. So those are the totally depend on each other. So that was an obligate um, mutualism. Now, when mutualistic association is can be partially dependent. That means this organism in the association or the relationship partially depend on this mutualism for food, shelter, or for normal body function. When they partially depend and can stay on their own without the mutualistic association, such type of mutualism is said to be facultative, facultative. So an example is insects and insect and flowering plants. Typical example is insect and flowering plants. Insects such as bee. Now the bee can stay without the flowers. The bee can stay without the flowers and collect nectar from other type of flowers. So a bee and a flower is not facultative; they can stay without each other. So and also, please take note, parasitism could also be obligative. Also note, it can also be obligative and facultative. That means parasitism can be obligate. So when parasites can totally depend on each other, it's said to be an obligate parasitism. So example can be seen in doda plants and other tall trees. Doda is an obligate parasite. It cannot stay without doing parasitic. Doda is a non-green plant. Now, why there's another parasitic plant called mistletoe. Mistletoe is a green parasitic plant. So without parasitism, mistletoe can produce food from photosynthesis. We say mistletoe is a facultative parasite. So remember, parasites could be ecto, endo. We can also have mesoparasite. Mesoparasite. So that will be your assignment to do. So what are mesoparasites? State the meaning of mesoparasites and give example on the comment section. So ectoparasites stay on the external thick lies. So endoparasites stay in the inner inside the os. And example Taenia solum, tapeworm, so and so on and so forth. So you tell me example of mesoparasites and what is mesoparasitism, and list examples of mesoparasites on the comment section. So based on function, mutualism can be classified based on function. So there are some and this mutualism based on function could be trophic, defensive, or dispersive. Now, quickly, time is against us. We have to quickly end the video. There's no time to prevent the video from being too long. So, trophic mutualism is what we know as nutritional based mutualism. So, when two organisms depend on each other just for food, self-explanatory, just for food, that is known as trophic mutualism. You know them, mycorrhiza, fungi, and the root of higher plants. Um, 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 Nitrogen-fixing bacteria such as rhizobium and the root of leguminous plants. This is an example of trophic mutualism. So they depend on this organism for food, solely for food and nutrients. Now, for defensive mutualism, these organisms, what's it called? They depend on each other for defense. So the reason why um, this mutualism occurred, the reason why they are mutualistic is because one is probably defending the other. So, for instance, I have a large fish such as shark and remora fish. So I see many sources online saying shark and remora fish is commensalism. No, sir. Shark and remora fish is mutualism. The shark defends the remora fish. It's a larger fish. It defends the remora fish, protects it from other predator fish. And why the remora fish help to remove dead cells and parasites from the body of the what's it called of the larger fish. Also, the other benefit of the remora fish feed on the remnants of the shark. Also, remora fish feed on the remnants of the shark um, from its feeding. So that's for example of defensive mutualism. Another example is a ant and acacia tree. Acacia tree is a particular type of tree that produces gum in the tropical rainforest. It has a lot of ants. So the ant helps to defend the tree from other herbivores. So herbivores can come and attack the acacia, and the ants defend the herbivores by biting them and so on. And why the acacia tree um, provide shelter for the ants. So dispersive mutualism is a very special form of mutualism. So dispersive mutualism, now it's a type of mutualism in which one species help to disperse another species. So it's one species. So this type of mutualism is one species helps to carry another species to another place. So for instance, now you must have heard of seed dispersal. Seed dispersal is a process in which the seeds of flowering plants are transferred from one place to a new site or to a new habitat where they cannot grow. We have dispersing agents. So dispersing agent can be man, bird, insect. So when two organisms are mutualistic and such that one need to disperse the other, that's known as dispersing mutualism. Example is bee and flowering plants. So the bee um, help to disperse the seeds and the fruits of the flowering plant, and while the flowering plant provides food for the bee. So that's an example of dispersing mutualism. So at this junction, we'll call it a wrap for this video of the interrelationship between living organisms in an um in an ecosystem. So make sure you watch this video. If it's helpful to you, subscribe, subscribe, like, press the like button, and see you in the next one. Have a pleasant day. God bless you.